Welcome to Devlog 7 of Death, an office-themed roguelike which I've been developing for almost exactly a year at this point. So today we're going to be celebrating that achievement by... no, not exactly, although I get why you think that, and I'll probably title the video something like "Why I Deleted My Game After a Year" with like a thumbnail with a giant delete button. Let me be clear though, I did not delete anything. Actually, here's the proof. This is the project all non-deleted and, well, completely untouched. But it's also going to remain untouched forever, because this isn't where Death is going to be developed from now on. This is a brand new project made just a couple of hours ago, which basically means I've reset the game. But why? Basically, a year ago, my programming skills were even worse than they are today, and so when I wrote the first scripts for this game, they weren't very good. The problem is that every script I wrote after that relied on those first few, and specifically relied on them working in a certain way. Basically, if I wanted to fix and improve those scripts now, I'd have to rewrite the entire game from scratch. So instead of attempting that in a project that has dozens of different scripts and systems that are all break and need to be constantly fixed, we're just going to build it all up again in a different project. So here's the story of me doing exactly that and leaving an old project behind to create a new and better one from scratch. Okay, so we're starting with a completely empty project, so obviously the first thing we need to do is add some basic features to it. You know, things like the player. So I added a square to the scene, made it blue so we know it's the player, and started writing a movement script. Before I show you what I wrote though, I'd first like to have a look at the old movement script, because I think it makes it very clear why we need to improve the programming of this game, especially if we compare it to the current movement script. I mean, you don't have to know anything about programming to see that this is a vast improvement. It's just a world of difference. Okay, player movement done. Now I want to do some enemy movement. So I added a triangle to the scene and made it red, because that is the evil colour. Then I simply added the A-star pathfinding algorithm to our project, which calculates the shortest route to any certain point. How? I have no idea, but it works and that's all that matters, because now the enemies can follow the player. To be honest, this wasn't too difficult to set up, although we still have the problem of enemies perfectly overlapping and pretending to just be one enemy, but I'm still in the process of finding a solution to this. And although the old enemy movement script isn't all that bad, it's also laughably long when compared to the new one, and that's because it has tons of useless functions which I never bother removing. And I can't talk about useless functions without mentioning the old gun script. Oh my god, is it bad? I mean, the script that rotates the gun is fine. For this project, I literally just copied it over. But the script that handles shooting, probably the most crucial mechanic in the entire game, well, it looks like this. Now, it might not seem that bad to you, but when I show you the new gun script, suddenly it becomes a lot more obvious why it's horrible. And believe it or not, they function nearly identical. Yes, the new gun script is missing some features, but instead of adding those to a single script like we did with the old one, we're going to be smart about it this time, because we're going to be using augments. Augments are going to be scripts that will add to and change the behaviour of guns without me having to code anything. The way it works is that our base gun script has multiple functions, things like gathering input and shooting bullets. Without augments, this means whenever the shoot button is pressed, a single bullet will be shot. But let's say we want to shoot 2 bullets at the same time. Well, we simply attach an augment script that can do that. This script will then replace the shooting function in the base gun script, allowing us to shoot 2 bullets at the same time. But let's say we want to hold the shoot button instead of pressing it. Well, then we simply attach another augment script that can replace the input function. This way we can alter a gun however we want, and when a functionality is missing, we simply write a new augment, instead of changing a single gun script like we did before. Although this is certainly not an original idea, I'm very proud of the fact I came up with it. Okay, the player is moving, the enemies are moving, and the gun is shooting, which means the base functionalities are done. But at this point, I'm kind of tired of programming. I want to focus on something different, like art. Now obviously over the last year we've already made a lot of art for this game, but this reset allows us an opportunity to change and refine this art. For example, something that's been bothering me lately is the flatness of our game. Now obviously that was intended. I thought it gave the game a unique and even corporate feel, but at this point my vision of the game just needs a more detailed and just better looking art style. So here's my concept art for this new art style. Now you'll probably notice two things immediately. It's a lot more detailed than before, but it also looks very dirty. However, both are an intended effect. My idea is that the lower floors of the office will be dirtier, and the higher up you go, the cleaner and more expensive everything becomes. But since we're currently working on one of the lower floors, everything is going to be quite dirty. The characters have also gotten an upgrade. Previously, they too were rather flat, but with some shading, they now look much more rounded. They actually feel like they exist inside of the rooms now instead of being on top of it, which is something the old design suffered from. I also wanted to redesign the guns, since they too, like everything else, were really flat. And honestly, I love what I ended up doing with this gun, and I'm absolutely sure now that this is what I want the game to look like. So I put some of the designs into the actual game, and it's looking really good. Wait, did you see that? There it is again, wait! Oh, too late. Okay, I'm gonna unpause it, and then I'm gonna be ready this time. Gotcha! It appears to be some sort of name. But wait, there's something below it. Channel member. Oh wait, that's right, I enabled channel memberships, which means you'll be able to support the channel directly by clicking the little join button below the video. Being a member comes with perks like access to an exclusive Discord server and a special supporter role on the regular Discord, among other things. Thank you to these 11 people for already becoming a member, and let's move on to the rest of the video. There's certainly a lot that still needs to be done to get back to where we were before, but for now I actually want to implement something we didn't have before, a pixel perfect camera. I mean, I was fine with things not being pixel perfect in the old project. Nothing about the sprites rotating without changing bothered me, but there is a huge advantage to having a pixel perfect camera in a game like this, and that is pixel perfect effects. Basically, if I wanted to create a fire in the old project, I'd have to manually animate it outside of Unity. But with a camera that is pixel perfect, I can simply use Unity's particle system to create an organic flame, and the camera then converts it to pixel art. It basically means I unlock the ability to create dynamic effects within the game. Now you might think, great, Unity actually has a built-in component for that, fittingly called Pixel Perfect Camera. Just add that to your project and you'll be fine. The only problem is that it doesn't work. Just look at the scene here. Although it's the old project, it shows the problem perfectly, because everything looks jittery and weird. Things are no longer moving smoothly, and the player is basically glitching all over the place. Clearly not what we want. So to keep the smoothness we had before, but also have pixel perfect effects, I tried tons of different solutions. For example, I remember watching a devlog on a game called Extortion, which seemed to solve this exact problem, but implementing it seemingly doesn't change anything. I don't know if this is because my game is a top-down roguelike and Extortion is a 2D platformer, or because my programming skills just aren't good enough to accurately convert it to my game. Either way, I had to find a different solution. What I ended up going with is having two different cameras, one in a low resolution that captures everything pixel perfect, and another pointed at a scaled up version of the first. This technique is also fittingly called upscaling. However, this still doesn't solve anything. The jittering problem is still present, and that's because it is quite literally the same thing as adding the pixel perfect camera component and clicking the upscale render texture button, because that is exactly what we're doing. The difference, however, is that now we should be able to solve the problem. So that was probably the most frustrating 2 days of my entire life. It is working now, but don't make me explain it because I'm still kind of expecting it to break. Basically, what I think solved it in the end was snapping both the camera and the player to a pixel grid, basically meaning the smallest amount they can move is a pixel, because this seemed to eliminate all the jittering. I will definitely need to come back to this later since there are still some improvements I want to make, but for now it's working, which means we'll be able to create pixel perfect effects in our game, something I'm very much looking forward to and can't wait to experiment with in the next devlog. So if you don't want to miss that, make sure to subscribe. Also, let me know your thoughts on the reset. Was it a good idea or an absolutely horrible one? Either way, I'll see you in the next video. Bye.